So why do you love anything? For that matter, can't you look at it objectively from the evolutionary point of view and just say, I'm being forced to love them? I mean, you can see where I'm going with this. It's
why do you love your family, and whatever reason that is, why can't you just look at it objectively? And yeah, it's kind of a non sequitur.
Point. We're both looking at the same evidence, but we're just coming to different conclusions. You look at this retrovirus thing and say, okay, apes and humans have this, a similarity there, and that means, according to you, that we came from them. I look at it and just say we were infected with the same virus. It's the same evidence, just different conclusions, and that's all this is.
I don't know if we're quite looking at the same evidence, because you seem to be misunderstanding the significance of the retroviruses here. All right, now if our genome, okay, it's just a list of characters, so we can say it starts at the beginning over here, and A, G, C, 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 A, G, da, 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 and there's about 3 billion characters in the human genome. Now, most of the DNA in our genome is non-coding. It's irrelevant in regards to building our bodies. It's not read. It would be similar to, if I had a computer program and I'm writing lines of code, and I've got line 1 that says this, and line 2 that says this, and if I've got lines of code and, line 1 executes, line 2 executes, line 3 says to go to line 5, the program itself, when it runs, never looks at line 4 right there. Most of the DNA isn't used in building a body. Now, the way an endogenous retrovirus works is it's essentially what you end up with is a little piece of DNA, okay, and obviously this is not to scale. So the important part here is, okay, this little bit of DNA, it can insert itself essentially randomly anywhere into the host. So, if we've got, so if you've got the human species over here and chimpanzee species over here, essentially what your interpretation of the evidence, you're saying that, the virus infects humans, virus separately infects chimpanzees over here. If this is a human genome, and this is a chimpanzee genome here, there's a 1 in 2 billion chance or whatever that retrovirus is going to insert over here. You're saying that it by chance entered in the exact same position. It doesn't make any sense for the retrovirus to enter in the exact same place on both different species. It's a much more plausible explanation that it enters on a given organism, that organism reproduces, and its offspring inherit that little tiny addition there. And I will also post a link to a paper by John M. Coffin, professor of molecular biology and microbiology at Tufts University.
We both have the same world to look at. You believe it's a few billion years old, I believe it's about 6,000 years old, and I believe we can both find evidence to support our claims. There's plenty of evidence that the Bible is true. I'll supply it with you on the links.
I didn't see any links proving that the Bible is true. Okay, I wasn't gonna bring this up originally, but it seems to me, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me that you're taking the Bible as true and then interpreting all your scientific data in light of that. I challenge you to prove to me why you think the words contained in that Bible are factual.
Stuff to play around with. How can you account for the beauty in creation? And the order as well. Let's talk about beauty. I mean, look at the human design. I may not be the most attractive person.
Okay, beauty is subjective. I don't know how I need to account for it. As far as the design of creation, okay, now I kind of want to just brush this off and tell you to go look up the argument from design. I'll post a link. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here, but it seems like you're skipping some steps. So you start off with, there is complexity and order in the universe, and then step, God exists, and the Bible is His word to us. Like, you're going to need to string me along there, buddy.
On top of that, just the sheer intelligence of what we see. If I take marbles, the little balls, and I make them into a horse, not a real horse, obviously, but a marble horse, and I stick that in the back seat of a car and I drive around, is it going to get more complex as I drive around, or is it just going to roll all over the place? see, evolutionists believe with enough circumstance we can go from chaos to order, but it doesn't work like that.
You're right, it doesn't work that way in a closed system. The Earth is not a closed system.
If we knew every inch of all of space, and let's say it goes on infinitely, and there's an infinite amount of planets with every possibility, we should be able to find a NASA space shuttle just sitting in the middle of a canyon somewhere, just because random chance could have assembled it.
If you're exploring a truly infinite space with a truly infinite number of possibilities, after a finite amount of time, you probably would find such a thing. However, the odds would be so small that you would probably have to look for, an inordinate amount of time. It would still be finite, but it would be unrealistic, implausible.
That takes more faith than believing an intelligent designer created intelligence.
Okay, so riddle me this. Who intelligently designed the intelligent designer? And before you tell me that the designer is exempt from the rules, you've got to tell me why the designer does not need a designer, but the universe does.
I don't have time in this video to talk about carbon-14 or radioisotope dating, but to say the least, they're not exact sciences at all. In fact, they're completely fraudulent. So if someone wants to message me and talk about it, I have a response to those objections to the age of the Earth.
Do share those with us, please. Please.
The Bible says people who scoff at the Bible are ignorant of the world before the flood, how it was in the water and out of the water. You see, the Bible talks about a seventh layer of the atmosphere, which was above the earth like a water canopy. And this water canopy is what fell to the earth 4,400 years ago and flooded the whole planet. This water canopy,
I'm sure we'll get into this more later, but if you have any extra biblical proof for your water canopy, that would be swell.
when it was up there, was probably propelled by the Earth's magnetic field. We all know that ice can actually be suspended over planets by magnetic fields. Anyways, this water...
We do? That's news to me, man. Please show me some evidence of that.
Anyways, this water canopy made the Earth like a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, which doubled the oxygen pressure and thus oxidized the whole planet, which is why dinosaurs grew to be such enormous creatures. I mean, lizards never stopped growing, and if you add oxygen to any living creature, be it vegetation or animals, they'll live longer, live healthier, and the Bible talks about how Adam lived to be over 900 years old. This is only possible if you double the...
Okay, so show me a 20-year-old mouse. Please cite some evidence.
So, once the water canopy fell, oxygen levels became very much what we see today, and thus lifespans all around the world were reduced to what we see today. And thus, before then, everything lived longer and lived bigger. Here's an interesting thing about water. Where did it all come from? We can't find like a speck of H2O in outer space. Why would God make a world full of death and murder and rape and all the terrible things we see? God did not make a world such as that. He made a perfect world, and He gave us free will, and it just so happens that we used our free will for evil.
Okay, but again, going back to my last video when I talked about free will, okay, God knows everything, okay? Even if God gave us a free will, He knew, He dictated what world, what environment our free will would be acting in. He would know how we would react with our free will. If God exists, He did make the world this way. Everything is proceeding exactly according to His plan, is it not?
And Adam, the first man, according to the Bible, sinned against God, and since we are all from Adam and we inherit the traits of our parents...
Isn't that nice? Punish the son for the sins of the father.
Inheritors of the sin nature.
If we inherit the sin nature, does that mean there's a genetic basis for it? What is the mechanism by which we inherit our sin nature? Please enlighten me on that.
Sin is like oil and water to God. he's holy, so he can't go anywhere near it, and this whole world is sinful. It is separated from God. So I can see why some people would say there is no God, because we are separated from him.
Okay, if we're separated from him, how do you know anything about him? Flood video's coming next, I guess.